Hello, it is Jay. It is a dark episode for March the 28th, 2022. Well, it was an Oscars day, and it was a hell of an Oscars broadcast. Um, for anyone in the future, this is the one where Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, who was sitting next to Will Smith, making a joke about her her close cropped hair, which apparently she's been very public about having alopecia. And Will Smith reacted. He jumped up and he slapped Chris Rock, sat back down, and told him to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. Um, yeah, and assault is something that should come with consequences, and this is a very rich and famous dude hitting another rich and famous dude, and there's not going to be any charges for that. There won't be any consequences. But if you're not a rich and famous person, there's consequences when you assault someone, no matter how much you're provoked for that. If I decided to hit somebody for saying something hurtful to Ja, I would get prosecuted for it. And that's something that's to keep in mind. Much less when you go from verbal to physical. Physical can just have a real consequence of somebody can get hurt, and somebody can get hurt irreversibly in a way that is going to last for the rest of their life and can go off in all sorts of directions. Because I have to admit, like, my first reaction to this is, it's one thing when you get insulted or somebody attacks you. That's you to my mind, that's something that you can take in, and it's a certain level. But I know from my own experience that when some things happened to Ja, it accesses a whole different level of protectiveness, of wanting to write stuff, and it's a vulnerable spot. Obviously, it was a very vulnerable spot for Will Smith, and I would have to acknowledge that would be a vulnerable spot for me. But it's like you gotta be really careful when you would take that as something that it's not something that's admirable. It's something that's pretty fucking sad. It's something that's really sad and dangerous and potentially really, really harmful. And something like that happening internationally, something that's around the world, that had however many people watching, many people vaguely having their eyes on it, and now it's exploded into every paper and media. It's like that's something that needs to get looked at seriously, and not in a, well, if they did that, someone said that to my wife, I would also beat the shit out of them. It's like, that's not where we need to go as a society. That's a really answering words, however vile and horrible and hurtful, with physical violence is a pretty fucking, it's a dangerous thing. It's a real failure on Will Smith's part. Because if you punched every asshole in the world, you'd be punching people for a long, long time, and you'd be hurting and causing all sorts of damage. Yeah, yeah, because it's the more I think about it, the worse that is. Um, and yeah, it's in a moment of very heightened emotion that all this is happening. But, and I can see that being the weak spot. It's a rather tragic weak spot for someone, at least from the outside, who just, as when you look at Will Smith, is someone who's trying to project a kind of a very positive image. This is, falling down at the finish line, at the, that the end of the race. He's winning the race, and he smacks down on the concrete right at the finish line. It's just it's sad for him. And apparently he and Jada Pinkett Smith have history with Chris Rock. And, Chris Rock is the jester, is the person who's there to needle the rich and powerful, and probably more so the rich and powerful in the American black community. It's not going to make him a pleasant person. He's going to be the asshole. And sometimes the asshole is necessary. Sometimes the asshole is hurtful and is kicking people when they're down. I think that's what he was doing. Yeah. So no love lost there. So there's this comes bundled with a lot of different contexts. Much less, I have a feeling if anything like that happened, Ja would tell me to sit the fuck down. It's not my thing. I'm very much taking this in a very kind of a male, me partner, me protect. It's like, well, fuck that. Ja is a very strong, powerful woman, and so is Jada Pinkett Smith. And that people that can fight their own battles and will probably fight them ably with words, cut people who deserve to be cut down to size with words. Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting. God. I'm sure this will be reverberating for a while. It'll be interesting to hear what people have to say about it, because I have to admit, I was a little bit more sympathetic towards Will Smith initially, just because of that visceral thing. But then it's like, I look at that in myself and I think, that's not a good thing in myself either. And it's not a good thing in Will Smith. So, because, if I see myself in that position, I can see myself being charged with assault and it being the right call. That would be somewhere where I would deserve to be charged. And that would fuck up my life, and much more if I hit somebody hard enough, it could fuck up their life for the rest of their life, for words, which should be answered by words. All right, and with these many words, I will close this dark episode. I've been Jay. More videos later.